Hello, good morning. Welcome to the online session of today. My name is Marco Valcarcel. I'm part of the organization Eat Spanish. Here is my friend Juan, and we're going to be showing you guys some of our Spanish cuisine, some of our dishes. I'm going to be cooking today some dishes that I've been influenced by my background in hospitality in Spain and also here in Australia. I'm going to cook a mussel escabeche in a bocadillo, so it's like a kind of sandwich, some bocadillo mussel escabeche. After that, I'm gonna cook patatas bravas, one of the most classic Spanish tapa, but with a little twist of fine dining. You guys will see it. And then I'm gonna finish with a mille foie of lamb belly with a solbus majado. All right, I'm gonna start with it. You can talk if you want a little bit about the pairing.
Thank you, Marco. So what we thought today for our sandwich, it will be perhaps to start with something bubbly. We didn't want it to be very, very fancy, so we started to have some beers, as we thought it would be more real, a bit more classic. What we eat in Spain and what we drink with this classic of sandwiches is always beer. At the bar, you're gonna go for lunch, dinner, doesn't matter, breakfast, you're gonna get your sandwich in the morning and or in the lunchtime, and you're gonna get a beer with it. One of the favorites at the moment in Spain, I think, is Alhambra. Alhambra is a beer from the south, from a place called Granada. You probably know it. One of the most beautiful places in earth to visit, not only to visit, but to eat. The gastronomy in there is amazing, and the beverage, wines and beer, of course, as well. So we decided to start with some bubbles to go with our sandwich.
Yep, that's it. It's the most classic way to eat the escabeche in Spain. You want to have it like the authentic way to eat it in a bar in every single city in Spain. You'll have it more with a beer than with a wine. And yeah, so if you want to come here, Andy, I'm gonna show you how I do the process of the mussel escabeche. So in the pot we got some shallots and garlic that they're sweating down with the beautiful La Española olive oil. In this case, I'm using the mild one, so I don't want to take over the flavor of the mussels and the vinegar that I put it in a second. And then the escabeche is one of the most classic ways to preserve kind of fish and shellfish in Spain, and South France as well. And then in terms of flavors, it's actually similar than a ceviche, so you have like a lot of acidity from the vinegar and the the cooking one that I'm gonna put it through it. So now, when I've been put the onions and the shallots and the garlic cut it in brunoise into the pot, and now that it's starting to be translucent, so I don't want to get a color, I don't want to get golden brown, I just want to sweat down the actual water into the oil, and I'm gonna add on a couple of leaves of bay leaf. I'm gonna put 3 of them, and then white peppercorns. I'm gonna put literally it's like a tablespoon, but I'm gonna do like a pinch, and then I'm gonna put up the heat a little bit, so the actual aromatics, which is the pepper and the bay leaf, it gets into the stew, into the actual shallots and garlic. Once this starting to bubbling a little bit more, you will listen the happiness in here in a second. That's when I'm gonna add the mussels, and that's when I'm gonna add the wine. So this one, you can come closer if you want. You can listen, you can see here how it starts to bubbling. That it didn't happen before because I didn't want it. And now, before it starts to get the color, you can, wow, the aroma that it came from it is amazing. It's just Spain, you know? All right, mussels in. I'm gonna move a little bit so the actual mix of shallots and bay leaf, it gets into the actual shell of the mussel that later on we're gonna throw it away. We're just gonna preserve the mussels itself. And in here, I'm adding on the wine. So in here I'm gonna add about 200 mils of wine, but I'm gonna add in two goes. So I'm gonna add half of it. I'm still preserving 100 mils. And the mussels, I'm not gonna close it. Usually everyone closes the mussels. I prefer to, in this elaboration, I don't need to, because with the heat, it's gonna be enough heat, and the pot is kind of tall pot, so it's gonna be enough heat to actually open the mussel, which is what I want for this elaboration again. Beautiful. I'm just gonna get a bowl.
Well, guys, so as Marco said, my name is Juan. I am sommelier. I'm from this side of Spain originally, 7 years in Australia already. Did my studies in London, in the UK. Worked in Australia in many different restaurants, from casual to fine dining. And beverage is my passion, especially wine. However, you know that wine is food, food is wine, everything goes together. And this is what we're doing today. I'm gonna serve a little beer for you, Marco.
Beautiful, yeah, please.
Let's do it.
I love this beer.
So 1925, beautiful beer that we actually got at a really cool place called La Central in the South Melbourne market. If you love Spanish food, if you really like to discover a bit more of that kind of like premium delicatessen that La Central has to offer, come around. Highly recommend to buy some of the Spanish ham, some wine, some beers that they also offer in there. For these kind of beers, I always like to use a glass. I think that they deserve to open up. They are easy and refreshing beers, but at the same time, quite complex. In this case, you see that it's already having a beautiful golden, almost turning into amber color. The formation of the foam is so steady. The head is almost perfect in here. And I think that we should taste a bit of the beer just to make sure that it's not poison.
I think so too. That's
what do you think?
Yeah. Quality control.
Salud.
Salud. Beautiful beer. It's probably my favorite beer from Spain.
Yeah, as we said, one of the leaders at the moment in crafting beautiful beers in the country. Lucky to have it here in Australia.
Yeah, exactly. Lucky. I think it weren't before because of the high graduation of alcohol.
Yeah, it's a beer that normally have a bit more of
more graduation than
alcohol percentage.
Beers. Yeah. Coming back to the escabeche, so the mussels just open, and I just take it off straight away when they open. When they start to open, as you can see in this one, that's when I move it, because I don't want to overcook the mussels, and that's something that actually a lot of places does, because they keep cooking it once the mussel have opened. But if you actually see it, you preserve all the juices. So that's when you want to take it out. And then all of this liquid, I'm gonna keep reducing for about 8 minutes. So I'm gonna put the fire up again, and I'm gonna add the rest of the wine, the 100 mils of the wine, and I'm gonna add 125 mils of cider vinegar, apple cider vinegar. And I'm gonna add one of the most classic Spanish products, and for me, one of my favorite ingredients for my cooking, which is the smoked paprika. It comes again from La Central in South Melbourne Market, and this one is Pimentón El Ángel. It's from, of course, it's from Spain, and it's probably the best smoked paprika that you will have in the world. I can confidently say it. And I'm gonna add 1.5 tablespoons of it to the mix. And I'm gonna keep cooking it for about 8 minutes, how I said. In that time, in these 8 minutes, I'm gonna open the mussels, I'm gonna preserve it in one of the containers that I got somewhere, and then I'm gonna get the container, and then this mix, after it's cooked, I'm gonna pour through the mussels, so the mussels keep moisturizing into the beautiful pickling liquid. I'm gonna call it like that, and I'm gonna put it in the fridge, cool it down, and then I'll play the bocadillo. Alrighty, now I'm opening the mussels while this pickling mix is cooking. You need to make sure you actually scrape out all of the shallots, the cooking shallot that is in the mussel, because it has all of the happiness, all the flavor is in there. Some of the mussel doesn't open all the way through it, and then usually happens all the time, but once they open a little bit, you know they are fine. So I just open it with my hand, and the mussel is completely fine. The only thing that it happened, as you can see here, like all the water is there, and that's why it didn't open all the way through, because I actually wanted to take it off the heat before it opens completely, because it gets more juicy and it keeps all the water, all the salty water into the mussel, and that's actually super juicy when you eat it in the bocadillo. Like this one, you can see that's a beautiful mussel.
But he's talking about saltiness in here, and I think it's one of the characteristics of the beers as well. The water obviously is very important in crafting beverage in general, but talking about beer, I think that Granada, probably where these beers come from, it's one of the places in Spain where water quality is the best.
The best, yeah.
As there is a beautiful mountain called Sierra Nevada, and you get straight water from that mountain, which is very high in minerals, very high in that salty component from the rocks of the rivers that makes this beer one of the most delicious beers, as we said.
So I think something to do with the water from Granada.
Of course. It makes sense. It makes sense because it's not also only the art of crafting beer. It's also a bit of that a bit of natural resources that you find to
That's
make.
amazing.
Yeah, to make the base of this beer. Talking about the notes of the beer, of course, that kind of like perfect balance between sweetness, bitterness. It's a full body. It's a lager style. It's still like very full body. It's quite of an involving feeling to it. As we said, like the saltiness coming through in the palate a little bit.
Yeah, at the end, like really,
at the
really
very end. It's exactly, yeah.
What's the difference between as you say, it's lager, but the actual flavor of it is that strong and it have that body that it reminds you like of a kind of, I wouldn't say a pale ale, but I will say maybe.
No, it's not as bitter as a pale ale, but I call them lagers with character.
With character, okay.
A bit more of a toasted malt that makes it also...
Yeah, that's it, the toasted, I think it's like not double toasty, but you can see the color as well, that is a bit darker.
Yeah, a bit darker in here. But I think that the good thing about this beer is the roundness. Like you get the perfect balance of carbonation as well. The bubbles are very present but not aggressive. It's kind of like a sweet bitterness as well. And then matching the bread with yeast.
That bread, it's a marriage.
Perfect balance in there as well.
Beautiful. Alrighty. So I got here the mix, the pickling liquid. I just put it through the mussels that I open it, and I'm gonna cool it down in the fridge for probably like 20 minutes to 1 hour until the actual mix is cold. If you leave it overnight to the next morning, it's better. That's like all grandmas in Spain always gonna tell you like the best way to do escabeche is the day before. So in this case, I'm just gonna put it until it cools down, and I'm gonna finish the bocadillo in a second. So I'm just gonna put it in the fridge. And then in the meantime, I'm gonna bake the bread. That I'm using baguette for this elaboration because I'm using one baguette from a bakery in Coffee that is called Baker's Blue. And for me, they do the best bread in Melbourne. And as you can see, it's really, really a small baguette, but it's sourdough, so you can see the difference with the actual caramelization on top, how it's getting like a bit darker, but then inside, the actual bubbles are amazing. So for this one, I'm doing parsley and coriander butter. It's simple. So I just chop in chiffonné the coriander and the parsley and mix it with butter. And I'm gonna spread it out all inside, good amount, don't be shy. So you actually will change a little bit the color of the bread inside. And it will be perfect balance with the mussels. So parsley, garlic, and mussels is also another marriage, like the yeast that we were talking before. Like it's something that it goes together really well, and in all of different kinds of cuisines all around the world, they always use these ingredients together. It's not only the Spanish food. More that I know about different cuisines around the world, more like similar similar techniques and similar combination of ingredients, I find. Because at the end of the day, the palate is the same, no? And then you're always gonna trying to find something that it goes well with another product.
And also, you specified very well the bread type in there.
Yeah,
See
yeah.
How important bread is for Spanish people.
How important bread is for Spanish people?
That's kind of like sourdough. You talk about the bubbles in the bread,
inside,
the toastiness in there.
Yeah, the sourdough. This bakery is amazing, and for Spanish people, like the bread is. It's one of the most important things in the meal. You are not gonna have a meal without the bread, actually. So here I'm just gonna bake this. I'm just gonna roast it for 5 minutes. I'm gonna check in 5 minutes, 175. I don't wanna change the color. I just wanna toast and caramelize a little bit with the butter. So I'm gonna put for 5 minutes. And then I'm gonna check it out how the mussels are in a second, which probably they're still hot. And then we will play the bocadillo straight away. All right, now we're gonna plate it. We've been baking the baguette for about 7 minutes, something like that, between 170 to 200, depending on the oven, of course. And then now I got the beautiful mussel escabeche in here that has been resting and it's been cooling in the fridge. And now we just have to plate it. I also forgot to mention I got this fried saltbush in here. So the saltbush, it grows all around the beach next to Melbourne, and it's a beautiful mineral flavor to the plate. And I'm gonna dress it with a little bit of vinegar powder that I bought in a Melbourne Food Depot. So they have all of these molecular ingredients. So it's at the end it's basically a vinegar, dry vinegar until it becomes a powder. It's just a little acidity touch to the flavor. To the final flavor of the dish.
So it's a bit of a tangy notes in there with the salty character from the saltbush.
Exactly, and it brings all the plate up. In here we got the baguette, as you can see with the butter. It makes like this beautiful and crunchy. Oh wow, look at that, beautiful. And then the parsley and the coriander, it just cook a little bit with the butter so it gets the flavor to the bread. So now we're gonna place all the mussels, and specifically this baguette is super thin, so you can play the mussels all across the baguette, and they all gonna be from one side to the other. Look at that! Wow, these are beautiful mussels too.
Yeah, perfect size.
Perfect size for this.
Medium size in there.
Probably
big,
one of my favorite ingredients from the oceans are the mussels, especially because of the price. Like it's always super cheap. You can have it in the market for $4.99, $5.99 a kilo, and the flavor that it have and the flavor that it gives to you to any kind of elaboration that you put, it's amazing. So I think it's the actual ingredient from the ocean that for the price that you can have, mussels is probably the most worth one to buy.
Very, very Spanish, no? You
very
eat it like
Spanish.
From the north to the south, everywhere.
That's it.
In every house, not even every region, but every house has a different recipe to it.
Yeah, that's it.
You can do it with
everyone will do mussels in a different way, and for example, this escabeche recipe is like from myself. I actually did it myself, but every mom and every grandmother have their own way to do things, you know. All right, I'm putting the fried saltbush inside, and I'm gonna also put some of them on top. And then this beautiful juice with the shallots that we have, I'm gonna moisturize a bit of the bocadillo with it, so the flavors get in. Wow. Yeah, my mouth is like full of saliva right now.
It's watering at the moment.
From the beer as well. Oh my God, look at that. Look at that. Wow. Beautiful. So that's it. This is my mussel escabeche bocadillo with fried saltbush. We're just gonna put it all around the paper, breaking it a little bit. Super simple, super rural. But that's the best way for me to eat the escabeche. Lo que así, para que se vea bien. Beautiful. Alrighty, now we got the second dish that I have for today. This one is actually been influenced from one of the restaurants that influenced myself the most, which is Mugaric. It's one of the best restaurants in the world. It's the number 7 at the moment. And this is a really molecular food kind of process into this, but it's a classic patatas bravas with aioli. So for this dish, I'm using kifles, really baby kifles that it's gonna become a rock. It's gonna look like a rock. And then I'm gonna finish with a black garlic aioli. So this dish, Mugaric, this is from 2008, this dish that they create. And that was when they were number 3 in the world. And this one is been one of the most probably famous dishes from them since then. And for it, I'm gonna use kaolin clay powder. I'm gonna use mannitol. Mannitol is a kind of sugar. You can also use lactose because what you need from that ingredient is just a little bit of sweetness into the mix. And then the actual recipe is with squid ink, but I'm using Vegemite just to give it a bit of Australian ingredient, Australian flavor for it. So let's gonna start weighing all of these ingredients into the Thermomix, which actually is amazing because this kind of ingredients, molecular food, you need to be really precise. And the new Thermomix actually weight gram by gram really well. It's really accurate. So we're gonna start weighing 60 grams of the kaolin clay into it. So you can weight it, as you can see, you can weight it on top of the lid. All right.
That's handy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Thermomix, wow.
Yeah, I know. Hey, it's amazing. You can actually weight it for every. You don't need a pot. You don't need a scale. You just get a Thermomix in your kitchen and that's it. Just sort it. All right. We got the 60 grams of clay. I'm gonna add it into a mixing bowl, and then I'm gonna weigh the mannitol. Mannitol is as isomal is the sugar that it has the highest temperature point of burn. So mannitol you can start melting. I think it's in 200 degrees. So I actually burned myself with mannitol once in Mugaric, and it was hospital straight away because it was in 250. Yeah, it's the sugar that they use to do molds. For example, in Mugaric they do a fork of sugar that you actually eat the dish with that fork. It's called decadencia, the dish, and that sugar, it's mannitol, and then you basically melt it until it's ready, and then you put it into a mold, and then you can just have like a sugar fork.
And it melts at 250 degrees.
Yeah, it melts at 200, but it gets into, it could be still liquid without burning into 250 when the sugar actually melts in 100, I think, even less than that. So sugar usually in 120 is starting to burn. So it's a really high temperature of melt. So it's really dangerous actually if you don't know how to use it. All right, now I've got 30 grams of mannitol and I'm gonna add it again into the mixing bowl. And then that's the powder that we need. And then we're gonna put 80 ml of water. And then I'm gonna add a little teaspoon of the Vegemite, which is gonna give beautiful salty flavor into the mix. And it also is gonna give us a little bit of a darker color, which we need it. We need it because we wanna coat the kifles into this mix. And that what it's gonna do, it's gonna create a double skin into the potato that actually will dry it out and it will become super crunchy. And it will look exactly like a stone. So it's a kind of a funny dish to do if you have like people at home. You can actually make a funny dinner with it. You can make a game with that.
So it's like a traditional dish, like patatas bravas.
Yeah.
Taken to the very high fine dining
gastronomy. Yeah.
And then brought back to our kitchen.
Brought back to our kitchens.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it's fascinating how the fine dining has been the evolution of the fine dining. Now I call it the hood fine dining. Like it's in all neighborhoods you can actually find all of the ingredients and products that you will use in the best restaurant in the world. So it's not the fine dining as it used to be anymore. So fine dining gets into every single restaurant, every single bistro, and you don't need to actually use all the ingredients and use all of the techniques of the fine dining. You can adopt your kitchen or your kind of cooking with some of the techniques of fine dining, which I think is great.
Yeah, and I think it's a good way of getting a bit more approachable. Before fine dining was like, wow, this is a recipe, a restaurant that I'll never get there, I'll never do.
And now that's
And
it.
now,
And now
you thanks to people like you,
Yeah.
you can
You can
learn
try.
how to.
That's exactly right. Like you can try a lot of fine dining dishes in all of different restaurants from all of the revolution of the kitchen. At the end is a lot of people has been trying to learn how to do it, and that learn it gets into their countries, and then they show that learn to the people, and then at the end it's going growing and growing. It's amazing. Alrighty, now we got the clay mix. As you can see, it looks like actually clay, like you will build a house with. But it's edible clay. And then I'm gonna stick the kifle potato that I got pre-blanched, and then I'm gonna coat really slowly.
So you blanch it for how long?
I cook it for like about 15 minutes until it's just cooked. So you want a little bit of texture, and then you don't actually blanch it. Just cook it, and then you don't cool it down. You leave it cold naturally, so it keeps cooking a little bit inside. And you can see you get a skewer, and then you do the movement like a lollipop, and then you can see how it's coated and how it looks like super shiny like a stone, right?
Yeah, it's perfectly coated.
Perfectly coated.
Not leaking at all. It's just
yeah, that's exactly the texture that you want. And then now we're gonna dry it out. If it's a hot weather, you can dry it out usually in a room temp. But because now Melbourne is getting cold again, I'm gonna dry it out in the oven. I'm gonna do a couple of.
So once you've coated, if it's hot, room temperature is fine. If not, in the oven for...
Yeah, for about 15 minutes.
15,
and then
yeah.
It's actually better if you preserve it for example, in Mugarich, we had a hot box, like the plates, and then we have a tray with the potatoes, and then we keep them there so they keep a little bit warm, but not too warm to keep cooking the potato. So you just want a temperature that it actually holds the heat into the potato without keep cooking it. So now we have these stones. We're gonna put them in the oven. And let's dry it out for about 15 minutes. Vale, podemos cortar ya. Right, now we're gonna do the second elaboration of the dish. Now we're gonna make a black garlic aioli. So we got this beautiful black garlic that I bought at South Melbourne Market. Black garlic is actually from China. It's a fermentation that they do in China. And I'm gonna use black garlic rather than normal garlic to give a little bit of color into the emulsion. So with the gray color of the potato, it's gonna match in really well. So for the aioli, we go 4 yolks. We go about 3 garlic cloves of the black garlic head, and I'm gonna use 2 lemon cheeks and the mild olive oil from La Española. I'm using the mild again for the flavor. I don't want a really intense flavor into it, so I'm gonna add 4 yolks into the Thermomix again before we use it for all the powders for the clay. Now we're using it for blending. The Thermomix you can use for everything. Now I'm adding the garlic as well. Pinch of salt. And we got the chicks. I'm just gonna squeeze it straight into the mix. Usually you use vinegar. Usually it's the classic way to do it in Spain is white wine vinegar. But I want a bit more acidity and a fresh acidity into this emulsion, so I'm using lemon.
So it's a bit of a twist, no? On the classic aioli.
It is a bit
instead,
and lemon as well, yeah.
Instead of
especially the black garlic, yeah. So now I'm gonna start blending the emulsion, just the black garlic with the yolk and the lemon first. In number 3, I do it without the lid so I can see how much they're mixing. And now I'm gonna start pouring the olive oil really slowly. The good thing of the Thermomix, if you do emulsion, you can see the waves in the actual walls of the Thermomix, in the actual jug, how it's actually making the emulsion. And this noise indicated that the emulsion is working. As Juan can see, you can see in the actual jug all around how it's sticking the liquid.
Pretty easy to work with this
really easy
Thermomix, and also
that is it. Really good, really safe as well. This Thermomix came with a lid that actually close in electric system when you actually want to use it. So now that I turn it off, as you can see, opens up. If you want to use it again, you press it and it closes. It's actually amazing.
Quite handy, eh?
Yeah, really handy. Alrighty, so now we got the mix and I'm gonna put it in a bowl and then I'm gonna be ready for my plating.
So we were talking about this dish and we have a few components in here. It's a very simple dish to be so fine dining kind of dish, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You have potato, which is obviously that creamy texture to it. You have the aioli, which is something that is quite oily and that kind of unctuosity in the palate. We decided to go for a wine from denomination of origin Madrid, which is actually this beautiful Albillo Real is the grape variety. One of the most traditional wineries from the denomination of origin Madrid is actually to the west of Madrid, just 1 hour away from the capital of Spain. And as we said, Picaraña is the name of the wine, Bodegas Marañones, the producer. And what we have in this wine, Marco, is definitely a wine with texture, right?
Yeah.
It is a wine that on the nose, it's a bit of a nuttiness going on in there, a bit similar to Chardonnay, perhaps.
Yeah, I got that when I tried the first before. I actually got the similar flavor.
Creamy nuttiness.
Creaminess and the actual it coats your mouth and it makes like this creaminess.
Yeah.
Skin, kind of the skin that it gives into your mouth that it reminds me of the Chardonnay a lot, actually.
Yeah,
I was about to mention it.
When we were talking about the coat of the potatoes and then we were talking about the coating sensation of the wine in your palate.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Quite oily. It's a wine that it's a full body white, but it's not over the top. It's not a punch in the face. It's quite of a gentle at the front palate.
Yeah.
And then the finish very dry.
Yeah. Absolutely, and then the creaminess is gonna work really well with the creaminess of the potato, and also the crunchiness of the clay coating, and also of course the alioli. So it's really
very well priced. Very well priced wine as well. I think that people in general is not very familiarized with denomination of origin Madrid. A lot of good wines coming out from the middle area of the country. This wine, I got it from Alimentaria. Alimentaria is actually the importing arm of Movida. If you are from Melbourne or anywhere in the country, you know Movida, one of the best Spanish restaurants in the city, and as well in the country. They also have this importing arm, which is called Alimentaria. You can get them online straight from them, or you can buy it also, obviously, at Movida. And I think it's one of the importers that are doing a bit better in terms of like bringing new stuff. Of course, wine from Rioja, from Ribera del Duero, many different regions that are well known, always classic, always good. But these guys are doing a bit extra in the importing side of it. And they're trying to bring something a bit more fun, a bit more interesting, breaking the rules a bit. And I think that this wine from Madrid, very gastronomic, especially for something with texture, with that kind of like oiliness that we're talking about.
Yeah, it's amazing. Beautiful. All right, I'm gonna proceed to the plating time. So we got the potatoes arajia. As you can see, you don't even know if it's a potato or if it's a rock. So it's have like these bubbles into them in the coating that actually makes super funky and of course different than any other kind of patatas bravas that you will have in your life, that's for sure. So what I'm gonna do for this plating is I'm gonna make it dirty. I'm gonna just dirty with the black garlic aioli and be really, really rural again and really natural, right? So I choose this dish with some black peppercorns underneath, pepita seed, sunflower, and bay leaf underneath. So I'm gonna plate it in there to remind you the autumn, to remind you a little bit of of the mountains as well, like the actual the forest, you know. So just gonna do that.
It's incredible how fine dining it's getting easier and easier to do it at home, right?
Yeah, that's that we were talking before. That's why one of my things that fascinate me more, like how much it's the influence of the fine dining in the last 10 years into every home and every country as well, and the gastronomy of every country is amazing, because it's not as used to be in France, like in the 80s, like the noble cuisine. It was all about people with a suit going to a restaurant and just not for everyone. It wasn't for everyone. Now the fine dining is for everyone, and it's getting more into like this relaxing dining that I'm loving it. Yeah, I feel identified with it.
And I've seen that people as well, like practicing at home a bit more. I think thanks to TV shows and
absolutely.
People like us right now just trying to make something very casual, very simple, and people wanting to just do it at home, practice.
Yeah, I'm trying at home because it's actually fun. You know, you're cooking, but you're also doing something that is fun. As you can see in this dish, like if you put that from some of your friends, it's gonna be like, what's that? It's not gonna be like, it's the classic patatas bravas that you will have in a restaurant. So it's
very simple, nice. Garnish as well underneath.
Yeah, it's super simple. It's really classic dish. So with the simplicity of it, but make it a bit more molecular kind of process. All right, we're gonna do the last dish of my class today, which is a lamb belly mille foie with a solbus majado and hazelnuts, spiced hazelnuts. So this dish is actually a kilometro zero dish, right? So the lamb here in Australia, I find really interesting how they eat the solbus and how these two ingredients go really well together into a dish. So I particularly really like lamb belly or lamb brisket, which is it's kind of not usual or not often to see it in restaurants. But what I do, because you don't see it in restaurants because it's quite thin, as you can see it in here, it's a really thin cut of meat. But if you stick it one to each other, it will actually be like the same kind of size of a proper steak. If you like, it's kind of thick. Plus also the amount of fat and protein and meat that this cut of meat has. When you cook it, slow cook and then bake it, it kind of puff a little bit, like puff pastry. So that's why I call it mille foie, because it actually reminds you like a mille foie, because all of the skins of the meat. And to stick it to each other, the way to do it, you need to use a chemic powder, again from Molecular Food. So I'm gonna use transglutaminase. Transglutaminase is a meat glue. It's used for medicine as well. Like it's for example, when you cut yourself, it's not exactly the same, but the compost, the chemic products that they use, it is actually the same. So I'm gonna spread out. So
for the cut, you can ask your local butcher and they will get it for you. What do you need to ask for?
Absolutely. You will need to ask for like a lamb belly boneless if they have it, or with the bone, and then you can actually take out the bone at home and use the ribs for another elaboration.
Lamb belly.
Yeah, lamb belly or lamb brisket.
Or lamb brisket.
Or lamb brisket. Yeah, usually it's those two names. As you can see, I'm using, so this is the skin part outside, and then I'm using the inside, the meat part, to put all the powder on. Because this powder, what it does is like sticks protein. So if I will put this powder into the fat, it won't be as efficient. So I'm putting in one side, I'm gonna put it in the other side of the protein, I'm gonna stick really well, and then I'm gonna film it, and I'm gonna leave it in the fridge for at least 8 hours to be able to stick the protein together.
What was the name of the powder again?
Transglutaminase.
Transglutaminase.
Yeah, transglutaminase. And then you can always ask for meat glue. That's the technique name, transglutaminase. Yeah, meat glue. It's not easy to find. You will need to go to a really specific shop. But here in Melbourne, there is an online shop. It's called Melbourne Food Depot, or in the Essential Ingredients. You will definitely have it in there. That's in Brand Market. So as you can see, I just made like a little square of this beautiful lamb belly. stick to each other, and you have the actual perfect size for probably a meal for 4 people. And this one, we're gonna leave it overnight for 8 hours, and then it's gonna be ready for it. Vale. All right, now, all good. Now we are gonna go to the next step of the dish. I'm gonna make a salsa verde or a majado. I'm gonna call it solbush majado, but for this dish, I have spinach. For this elaboration of the dish, I have spinach, I have coriander, I have parsley, I have solbush as well. The solbush is this ingredient that you can easily have it all around St. Kilda, all around Brighton, and next to the beach, you'll have lots of solbush. You can actually pick it over there, give it a wash at home, and then you can use it for a lot of elaborations.
It's a native Australian, yeah?
It is a native Australian ingredient, exactly. And I'm gonna use also a little bit of vinegar powder later on to dress it, because it goes really well, the saltiness with the vinegar powder, it have a perfect balance in mouth. So I'm gonna blend this with the Thermomix again. We use the Thermomix for everything, as you can see. So I'm just putting all of these herbs and a little bit of salt that I have in the bowl into the jug of the Thermomix. Now we're gonna use the extra virgin olive oil from La Española, because for this particular elaboration, I want that flavor, I want that bitterness, I want that beautiful golden, liquid golden, how we call it in Spain, no?
Yeah,
olive oil is liquid golden
as well, bitterness coming from there.
I want that flavor into the dish. So I'm gonna put a good amount of it, like about 2 tablespoons, something like that. Just put it in.
Thermomix is gold, as well.
Yeah, it's gold. It's gold too. Liquid gold
into the gold.
And yeah, that's it, into the gold. Beautiful. All right, and now I'm gonna put 2 lemon cheeks juice. So I'm gonna squeeze these lemon cheeks into the jug. And there we go. You can see, guys, again how I'm pressing the button of the Thermomix and starting straight away close it down. And I'm gonna put up the speed this time. So now it's been blending for about 3 minutes. We got the lamb, it's also ready in here. Then I'm gonna just open the door and show you guys in a minute. But I want you to see the beautiful color of this majado that we got it in here. It's a mix between a majado and a salsa verde. We got all the nuts being blended, plus all the beautiful herbs. So that's gonna go really, really well, and it's gonna bring this the fat of the lamb, like all the flavor from the fat is gonna bring it down and make it a little bit more fresh.
All the green herbs normally goes well with the lamb, no?
Yeah, that's
in general.
Absolutely, and then in this case also the solbush is like kind of the lamb has been eating the solbush while it was growing. So it's a beautiful how I say kilometer zero. So I like to use ingredients that it makes sense between each other. So actually the animal, for example, like grass feed, I actually like to use salsa verde or like a lot of herbs into them with the cow that is been eating grass feed the whole time. Not the same with the grain. It's actually not. For example, a Wagyu is a grain feed animal, and it doesn't make the same balance and the same flavors when you mix it with herbs than if it's a grass feed. So I think that's really important. The actual nutrition of the animal that you're eating, it's really important to use the garnish for it. So I'm just gonna put this in the plate.
Definitely all related, right? So they said what grows together goes together.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
What grows together goes together, and that's why we're pairing this wine today. It is a wine from a region that you know very well, is it?
Yeah, this is from my hometown. This is from El Bierzo, and it's actually really close to Cacabelos, which is my dad's village. It's really a small town, and I'm sure he's going to be really proud of that.
Yeah, so this is a wine that is actually imported by the Spanish acquisition. Perhaps the guy that brings the best wines from many different parts of Spain focusing a bit in the south, in the sherry area, but definitely an imported that is making that extra effort to bring wines that are interesting. This is a wine from denomination of origin Bierzo. Mm-hmm. That's where you're from. Very close to the Galicia area, which is northwest. We're talking about very high mountains, cool climate region. Grape variety in here is Mencía, and the producer is called Godelia. So Bodegas Godelia making wines that are a bit fresher in style. Obviously, this is the entry level. Wines that are a bit fresher in style on the nose. Definitely that kind of like aromatics coming through.
Absolutely.
And if you see what goes together again in Bierzo, I imagine you eat a lot of lamb.
We do eat a lot of lamb, and then this kind of grape, Mencía, it goes really well with game meat or lamb, for example. It's a really strong flavored meat because of the feet of the animal, what the animal eats. And I think this wine, this grape in general, and this wine in particular, it goes perfectly with this dish.
Yeah, it's so Scott Wisley, again from Spanish Acquisition, is bringing wines that are a bit more in that kind of like food-friendly approach to wines. Mencía, again, is a wine that gives you a lot of savory character. The finish is quite savory and perfect amount of tannins, not very aggressive, perfect amount of tannins to handle big fatty meats like lamb. Yeah. But yeah, very, very gentle, very, very easy to
amazing, yeah.
to pair with many different dishes.
All right, so now I'm gonna show you guys how the lamb becomes after it's been cooking for 8 hours at 100 degrees, and then I flash it into 200 degrees for about 10 minutes, so you get a bit crispy, so you can see the beautiful Maillard reaction that the actual fat of the lamb it makes itself. And then I'm gonna just cut it in half so we can see the layers of that we were talking about before, that we made it with the crash glutaminasa.
Cannot wait, eh?
Yeah, you can.
Cannot wait.
I wish you guys could smell it with the camera, but unfortunately we can't now. But the smell, the fragrance that it comes from this is beautiful. It's unbelievable. So we're gonna cut it in half.
Just having the savory character of the wine and smelling this is
it's beautiful.
It's making sense already without even it.
That's it. Just from the smell, not even trying it, I can have a little bit of the wine, a little bit of the lamb, and I'm just getting hungry straight away. So as you can see, it's been stick all the layers together, and it gets super juicy inside, a little bit of crispy outside, but preserves all the fat, all the gelatin, all the collagen. It's actually amazing. So I'm gonna cut it in squares, and then I'm gonna cut it that square. I'm gonna cut it in half, and then the actual plating of the dish, I'm gonna do one face up and one face down, so you can see the layers of the mille-feuille. So this is how the plate is gonna look like, and then I'm gonna coat the part that you can see all of the layers of the lamb belly. I'm gonna finish with a little bit more salsa verde.
So long process to stick the two parts together. Long process of cooking, but actually it's a process that you just need to be on the side. I mean, you can just let it go, and then to plate it up. Quite easy, right?
Quite easy, yeah. It's always like, and then to eat it even easier. It's always like that. Cooking is all about mise en place and the process behind, and then the moment that you plate it is the moment. I always say to the chefs that I work with, I always say like, now you're enjoying. You've been working the whole morning. You've been working at 8 a.m., working really hard with your mise en place to play this. Take your time. Make sure you're enjoying what you're doing, because it's actually, in 2 minutes, it goes the work of like 7 or 8 hours, or even more in this case, right? So to finish this dish, we're gonna break a little bit of hazelnuts that I use for the majado as well. I'm just gonna crush it, really smash it a little bit. Doesn't need to be really even, and the parts I actually like when it's some of them crushed, some of them not crushed. And then I'm gonna mix these hazelnuts garlic crushing with smoked paprika again. Smoked paprika is one of my favorite ingredients, how I say before. So I'm gonna mix it through. A little bit of smoked paprika, salt, and Evo olive oil. Like Spanish food, Spanish cuisine, it's all about not many ingredients, cook really nicely with a really good technique, and find the best combination of it. So we don't use thousands of ingredients into our dishes, but we actually use so many similar ingredients into a lot of dishes, cook in a different way. So it's all about the technique. So again, super rural. I'm gonna just finish with the hazelnuts.
So simple,
but really tasty. And this is a proper main. This is a really rich dish that it goes super good with this beautiful one from my hometown.
looking good.
That's it.
Congratulations.
Thank you, man. Now we enjoy it together.
That's it.
Alrighty.
Puta hermano.
Pues ya lo tendrían.
What?
Well, thank you so much for being in this class, and I hope you guys enjoy our food, all the twists that I put to our Spanish beautiful cuisine. And yeah, I hope you try once at home and then enjoy it.
It has been a pleasure. I think that cooking with big chefs like Marco, it's always a pleasure, and it's always a good way to see how simple Spanish food could be and so delicious. Pairing with these wines as well and beer have been a real fun thing to do, and yeah, we're gonna have to repeat it again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we'll have to eat it, so that's amazing.
Someone's gotta do it.
Thank you so much.